Key Ranch itself really started talking about the ranch itself in 1893. That's when George Ben Key and his wife Mary Wright Key purchased this property. They purchased this 20-acre plot, kind of starting at the corner of Bassentary. It was now Bassentary Placentia. Bassentary didn't exist back then. The Keys moved down here, found out that, hey, yeah, this is great, and Richard Gilman is known locally as being the person to plant the first commercial orange grove in Orange County. So he planted 5 acres of Valencia oranges in the county in 1880. So this is still relatively new, this commercial orchards of the citrus industry here in this area. So George comes down about 13 years later, 1893. He buys the property because he agrees with his brother-in-law's idea that this is a great citrus area. He plants 12 of those 20 acres with the citrus. The reason it was only 12 was because of geography. As you notice, if you walked up the hill, we're upslope. Whereas the area that the Keys planted the citrus trees, they called it flats. It was the area that was lower elevation, and that is because one of the main ways to get water out to this location, to all the ranches in this area, was irrigation from the Santa Ana River. So a lot of the people in this area got together and started water companies to bring water out to a reservoir in this area. And then all the orchards had to dig irrigation ditches to bring the water onto their individual homesteads. So because you can't run the water uphill, I had some people ask if the reason why the house is on top of the hill was so they could get a good view. That's probably a secondary choice. So really the reality is the primary reason was probably because the flat area that they could irrigate was too valuable for citrus, for the money-making part of this ranch, that this was left over. So they planted the garden that we have to the south of us. There's trees, so a lot of specimen trees were planted by the Keys, as well as the house that would come eventually. So the first 5 years that the Keys owned this, they continue to live on the Gilman Ranch. It takes about 5 years at the time for a Valencia grove to get to productive state where you can actually make a lot of money off of the harvest. And up to that point, they were basically working on the infrastructure of the grove, digging the irrigation ditches, making sure that all the saplings they planted got watered to get everything established. After they started getting a little bit of income from these trees, it wasn't until 1898 that they started building this original home. So this home was built in 1898. It was relatively unfinished when they first moved into the building. They continued to make additions to it as they moved in full-time. They continued to work on the interior. They made some major remodels in 1908 and lived here the remainder of their lives. They raised their children here. They had 8 in total. 6 of them would survive, outlive their parents. George Ben Key lived here until he passed away in 1916. Mary Wright Key lived here until about 1930 when she passed away. After that, it was jointly inherited by those 6 surviving children and their spouses, kind of run in trust. And then in 1944, the younger son of the Keys, George Gilman Key, and his wife Hannah Ibsen Key. So Hannah and George Gilman will purchased the share of the ranch from the rest of the family, and they became sole owners of the property in 1944. They move in, they start running the grove, they start fixing up the house because when things are run in trust, people aren't here all the time, they're fixing things. There's a lot of things to fix up in the house. And eventually they come up with the idea to convince the county to turn the George Key Ranch into one of our historic sites, which the county eventually agrees and makes an offer for the site, the remaining site, in 1980. We put a living trust arrangement so the Keys could continue to live here the remainder of their life. Hannah lives here until 1983, and George Gilman Key lives here until he passed away in 1989. At that point, we turned the site into a historic site. So we recently More recently, we were open as a historic site. We did a lot of educational programs here. We did close in 2014 due to earthquake damage from the La Habra earthquake. So unfortunately, we had to close down the sites while we evaluated the damage to the building. Finally completed repairs and reopened in November 2021. So we're still kind of building back up a lot of the programming that we had here because it's been closed for so long.